Okay, hi everybody. I was asked to do a flip through of my first completed glue book. I've never made a video before, so forgive me if this is, terrible. But this took me about a year, I guess, altogether to do. It's just a blank sketchbook, 100 pages. I did remove some pages from the back once it started to get too thick, so I'm not entirely sure how many pages are in here. It's a lot, and they're 8.5 by 11. So let's get started. This first page, I think was for a Halloween prompt, probably in Gluebook banter. Just 3 images, but it turned out really, really kind of cool, I thought. And I didn't do these pages in chronological order. I kind of skipped around a little because I wasn't sure if I was just going to glue on one side, if I was going to do a lot of double spreads or not very many double spreads, or I just wasn't sure. So I ended up kind of jumping around, and that worked out fine. It was kind of fun that way. I used mostly magazine images, new magazines, some vintage magazines more. I sell on eBay, so I have kind of a fairly endless supply of old paper and old magazines. And I filled up the backseat of my car with magazines for like $1 from an auction. I've barely scratched the surface of harvesting those. So if you want a harvesting video, leave a comment below. So yeah, I've got kind of a lot of stuff rolling around here that I can, use for glue bugging. So, but I would say most of the things in this book are from magazines. This one, I feel like it tells a story a little bit, even though I didn't start out to tell a story. Most of my pages I don't. At least in this book, I didn't. I just was kind of randomly putting stuff together that I liked how it looked. So I didn't use a ton of words, but this one I did find a quote that I liked, and it lent itself to, I thought, this image here. So kind of cool. Not 100% intentional, but that's okay. This little boy, I think he's from a teens magazine, from the teens, probably maybe the 20s. This, I think, was the first page I ever did, actually. This car. I love this car. This is my Victory Bun UFO. I think Victory Buns were from a World War I era, so that was probably when this magazine was from. And it just looked like a UFO to me, so I made a UFO. This lady I had forever and ever, and I finally was able to glue her down. I just love her. This was the first double page spread that I did. These are actually old vintage photos that I had. This lady's looking a little sketchy, I thought. So when I saw these people looking to the side, I was like, oh yeah, they're checking her out for sure. And then this stuff is from a 1950s Japanese photography magazine, which I got at a yard sale. So there's quite a few pages in here that have stuff from that magazine in it too. This is actually a playing card, which is really cool. You'll see a lot of these cookies. I'm actually finally done with the cookies. I loved using the cookies for whatever reason. They just fit really well on a lot of different pages, and so I'm kind of sad I don't have any more. This car, the 1920s magazines are full of like cars and wheels and automotive things, and I just love the round shapes especially, so you'll see that pop up quite a little bit. These ladies I didn't cut out. This was already, the page was already like that. I just added these two. This is from, I bought a giant stack of vintage flower garden seed catalog type deals. I have a million flowers. So I've barely scratched the surface of using those even. And I put a lot of them in this book, but I have flowers for years probably. This spread, I had a King Tut calendar from the 70s that had pictures of things that were found in his tomb. So that's what these images are from. And more wheels. These are playing cards. I had a big ancient Egypt obsession when I was a teenager. So I have a kind of a soft spot for that kind of stuff. Anyway. This is the fella that I was jokingly calling my boyfriend. I couldn't glue him down because I loved him too much. Finally, I figured out I needed to just give him his own page. And that's how I was able to finally glue him down. He has his own spot. This hand, I knew the minute I saw it, I was going to put something in her hand there. This one is kind of a minimalist one because this lady was very minimalist looking, so I didn't want to overshadow her. So I thought I managed to do an okay job of that. This train is from one of those 20s magazines. I just love this bird. I have a bird book, so I have a few birds. It's another double page spread. This is vintage wallpaper sample, which I have a ton of, and I find it very hard to cut them up because they're so cool. So I've used them a couple times in here, but I haven't really dug into them yet. This was scrapbook paper that I tore, the brown part. This was another lady that I love so much that I basically gave her own page. She's feeding her chickens. She's very cool. This is an old photograph of a roadside memorial. This spread I did for a challenge, and I didn't really like how it turned out. It was like grid challenge. So these are yearbook photos, calendar, date rows from a calendar. These are the old like Columbia House stickers I had in an old magazine. I did like it a little bit better when I added these big flowers, but still just it didn't quite turn out the way I wanted it in my head. It looked cooler. These are playing cards. Yeah. More ancient Egypt. This guy, he's very cool. He's from an old 20s magazine also. And I loved her, and it took me forever to figure out a way to glue her down finally, so I was happy to find her a home. This page, I just kept gluing ladies down. I couldn't stop. This is from an article about collecting vintage portraits. So yeah, I went a little nuts with the ladies on that one. More Egypt, and this lady from the Modern magazine, I thought she was really cool. This is a Magic Eye book page. I've used a few of those in here. I have a ton more. They make really great backgrounds. I can't see them anymore. I used to be able to, but for some reason I've lost the ability apparently. More Egypt stuff. I shared this in the Gluebook Manager group because Nicole at Relax Cut Glue gave a great tip in one of her videos where she said, when you're gluing, a lot of times you'll get to a point where you hate it. And the best thing to keep doing is gluing. Just glue more, and eventually you'll get to a point where you like it. And that is exactly what happened to me with this spread. I really like it now. I love how it turned out, but there was a point, I don't know, halfway through where I was like, oh, this is terrible. What am I doing? But in the end, I got there. Another double page spread. I like when I can kind of mirror one page to the other. So I got lucky and found two of these cars. And yeah, I was able to really... Is that symmetrical? Yeah, I guess symmetrical is a thing I like. These are crazy perfume bottles. And this lady, the colors matched. And I don't know if you guys are like this or not, but I tend to go with a color theme on a page. I don't usually use like a ton of different colors all together. It's a lot of times it's maybe 3 or 4, you know. And then if I don't do a double spread, so say I did this page first, I come back to do this page, I still want them to kind of coordinate, which I know is weird, but it just makes me happier if they coordinate at least a little bit. So like I wouldn't have done like a red and green page over here because it would have, in my mind, not gone with this page. So I didn't do these at the same time, but they still kind of go together a little. I hope that makes sense. This made me super happy. This is another weird thing about when I'm doing these. This blue smoke matched this blue turtle, and he fit, so he kind of looks like he's coming out of the tube. You see what I mean? I will always glue that kind of stuff down when I see it. And nobody else may even notice it, but for some reason it makes me happy, stuff like that. This is a little bit of a themed circus page, kind of. I love this image. And I had a couple polka dots and this playing card, Carnival Days. This is another case where I lined up this road with this stripe with his shirt. And, like, I don't know if anybody notices that, but I do. This is another giant tire from one of those 20s magazines. I had a lady peek out from behind there. More of my favorite cookies. This was a doll, and its face was really creepy. So I liked it much better giving it these kind of glasses, which are actually the cutout of this flower bit right here. Flipped over on the other side was that. This lady, I loved her face so much I didn't want to cover too much of it up, but I loved this a lot. I think it's lava. I'm like, oh, that would be kind of a cool looking mask for that lady. And this one is another one that kind of tells a story a little bit. You can do it with the horses that are obviously pulling hard. And then this kind of cowboy looking lady looking sad. This is one of the few pages too where I went in with a marker. Originally I was going to have this be white in the background, but I ended up not liking it. So I just dotted with marker. I haven't done a whole lot of that, at least yet, as far as using pens or markers or anything. Double page spread again. This awesome. In the old magazines from the teens and 20s, a lot of times they had stories in them. So they'll have illustrations to illustrate the story that are amazing. And this is one of those. Again, 2 pages I didn't do at the same time, but still kind of go together. I cut out, I think this was the first time I thought to cut out something to place something else behind it. I love this pillow. I should get one for my couch. These are prayer cards, vintage prayer cards. There's one and there's one. I love this robot. But for some reason I felt the need to cover it with letters, but I just love that font so much. I didn't do a ton of tearing in this book, but I do think it's kind of fun. And I do love how this turned out. These little guys were so cute, but I like them a little bit better with the torn bits on top. And then this girl I cut in half, kind of, so I could put something, you know, in between. This is an old camera from that camera magazine. She's very cool. This one, I remember when I posted it, I said, I think I made a Fight the Patriarchy type page, and I wasn't really meaning to, but His Majesty here and the people with their fists up. Yeah, This was I tried doing a page of just stuff from my scrap box. So I'll just chuck little bits and pieces into a box in case I need them, you know, or want them for something. And I'm like, well, I make a page just from my box. So that's what that is. It turned out pretty good. Double page spread. This is another case where his head fit perfectly on this rock. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then I love the juxtaposition of, because she's kind of space age looking and he's ancient. So I loved them together. I do that a lot. I like to mix the old with the new stuff. If I can get its turn. So here's a perfect example. That new lady, old lady, old lady from an old magazine. How's that? This lady was kind of a fortune teller looking lady, so I put her in a teacup. I liked this lady in the background. I thought that was kind of cool too. You can barely tell, but there's people on this step that I put her hand over. This is another good example of 2 pages I did at different times that I tried to coordinate the colors on. A black and white image, a black and white image on top. This is from the old catalogs. I cut Vincent Van Gogh in half to make him a little bit more interesting. This was another kind of more minimalist look I was trying out, which I thought turned out okay. And I love this guy with his trumpet, with the flowers. Like I said, I have a million vintage flowers. I think everybody used this Medusa image. I mean, it was an awesome image. Why would we not use it? But, oh, this was the first time I was watching East of Honey on YouTube. And she's like, you know, you can take your X-Acto knife and cut a slit in things and tuck things inside of it. And I was like, why have I never thought of this? This is amazing. I'm doing this right now. So I cut a slit with I bought a fancy new X-Acto knife, which is awesome. And I was able to tuck a flower and tuck this lady in there. Turned out great. Another tire. This one I felt like almost has a little bit of an environmental theme because of the smoke, and you know, put a flower on top of it and these colors in here, which I think this is actually like a parfait or something. Lunch lady. Love her. This is another page where I kind of was looking at how things randomly ended up matching up together. So like this curve here was originally what the curve was. But this lined up perfect. So I lined that up. I lined this line up. These triangles fit perfect. So I had a good time just kind of lining stuff up on this page. And just that creepy guy, I had to use him. So this was a modern lady and a vintage lady. The modern lady did not have pants on because I've noticed in fashion magazines, a lot of times they don't give women pants for some reason. So I made her a skirt out of, I think there was another woman on the ad with this lady. So I cut the skirt off of her and gave the modern lady something to wear. And some words, which, like I said, I haven't used a ton of words, but I put the queen behind a fence, as you do. And this whole page, I just love this whole page. So I wasn't sure how I was going to incorporate it. I'm like, oh, I'll put a bird on it. Can't go wrong putting a bird on stuff, right? This one I thought was kind of cool. I do tend to kind of like this black and white on a color background thing. And I just thought they looked really neat together. Love, here's from 70s magazine. Another kind of story illustration. Love this. And I know this lemon thing I tried to glue down forever and couldn't figure a place to put it. Finally, I'm like, yes, it goes right there. It always makes me so happy when I finally can find a home for things. This lady looked like she was flying, so I had to put birds on her for sure. This one I wasn't too happy with how it actually turned out. It was better in my head. After I spent all the time cutting out the little pills and stuff. But I mean, it's cool. It's all right. This is old laundry ad. Love this hand. So I knew it was going to be a centerpiece for sure. So I just kind of gave it a little background. This one, for some reason, gives me funeral vibes, even though this image is actually from a graduation thing. I think it's the pills, maybe. And the fact that I hid their hats, so you can't tell that they're wearing graduation hats. I don't know. Still pretty cool. Oh, and I love this, love this, love this. These vintage ladies. They're all from old magazines, like from the 70s and 80s. More vintage wallpaper sample bits. I love this one. I had a couple. These were from an old makeup ad, and I was originally going to use them on the same page, and then I ended up using each one on its own page. And here, I really loved her silhouetted face, and then I covered it most of it up. I don't know why I do that, but just, I guess the motion of this rock thing just reminded me of the way her face was pointing. I don't know, does that even make sense? Anyway, and then I filled in the space. I remember this blue and orange bit I tried everywhere, and finally I liked it there. I don't know what took me so long, but love her. She's from that 50s Japanese magazine. I trimmed around this space thing, flipped it over to make the final oval down here. I thought it turned out really cool. This is another one that looked better in my head than how it actually turned out. I mean, it's fine, but not quite as cool as what I was hoping. More Egyptian bits on top of Magic Eye pages with fruit from my vintage garden catalogs. There's the other lady. I put her on top of a pie because, you know, why not? This one also tells a little bit of a story, I think, because it says don't grow old, and she looks like she's running away, and there's a pill, you know. Another good example of me coordinating the colors. And then I actually ended up having eyeshadow bits. These are 80s eyeshadow bits, and these are modern eyeshadow bits. I love this bird. So they kind of go together, even though I did them 5 months apart, looks like. This one, I originally was going to put more on, but then when I got to this point, I liked it so much I left it. I don't know why I love this advertisement, but I just like the vibe. This was the first couple of black and white pages I tried doing. I love her. So they turned out pretty cool. It was kind of fun. I wasn't sure if I would be, interested enough to do black and white. But I actually kind of really liked it. Oh, this is a great example. See this strip up here? That's cut off of this side right here. And those lines just happen to perfectly fit the top of her head. I will always glue that down, always, without fail. And then these people, I had cut out something from the other side. And when I happened to flip it over, I was like, oh, I love those people. So they made it on the page. I had to give this lady some kind of flower hair. I just knew she needed flower hair. So it turned out cute. This one kind of has a little bit of a story too. She is like a pool playing champion or something. So here's the pool stick and the balls, and here's the motels that she stays in while she plays pool. Those are old postcards. More vintage, mostly vintage stuff on these pages, actually. Ladies on Sidewalks. Made it 2 different times, but these are kind of extra colorful for me. I really like how he turned out. I gave him flower and seashell hair. And I had her forever and could not figure out a way to put her down. Finally got her down. And that moth I thought just fit perfectly on her helmet. And this little bird. He's awesome. Another black and white page or spread. Again, kind of fun. I'll probably keep working some in black and white. Again, new ladies, vintage ladies. These were twins to me. They're very twin. So I had 2 of these ads, so I cut her out to make her a twin also. That was kind of cool. This is Georgia O'Keeffe, who I really love. So of course I had to give her a flower. This was for a flower face prompt in one of the Facebook groups. I just loved her face. I was like, oh, she's perfect for burying in flowers. So these are all flowers from my vintage garden catalogs. So are these. I just love that bat. 2. Well, we're almost at the end. Last but not least, this whole thing was just a full page that I loved, but I stuck some seashells in his eyes. The end. So yeah, that's it. I hope I did an okay job showing it to y'all. I guess I'll see you when I start posting new stuff, hopefully soon. I've kind of taken a little bit of break since I finished this. I've been doing other things, but I'm going to be getting back to it soon. So, all right, y'all, take care.